Okay, so we pretty much got our terrain laid out, or at least kind of a base idea of what our terrain is going to be. There is one issue that I would like to resolve before we move into actually texturing, and that is the fact that there's nothing to keep the player in this world or in this map. If the player were to come to the edge of the map, they could just fall off the map. Um, so how uh, how you resolve this is you want to just put an obstacle in the way um, of the player, so that way they can't just walk off the side. Best way to do that is, well, in this case, we're going to use the terrain to do that. So we're going to grab our terrain brush again. We got it set to raise, and this time we're going to put kind of a shelf around the outside of the map, something that will just keep the player in. So, but at the same time, it's going to look natural. It's not going to look like it's obviously there to keep the player in. It's just going to look like another part of the environment that the player just can't pass. I don't really like that peak, so I'm going to redo that again. See if I can't. Yeah. So now, can't forget this side over here. So it'll look like the player is in a kind of mountainous area with a valley in the middle. So let's do that. And I'm pretty sure, I don't think, we'll just make sure that they can't cross over these hills right here. And if need be, you can always put in collision collision volumes and in the place of like if you don't want someone to walk over this hill to see this outside the map, just put a collision volume there and stop them from walking. Okay, so now we've got our little mountainous area laid out. Let's move on to texturing it. So we're going to pull up our, oh, no, not, there we go. So you want to click on this little paintbrush here, and you'll see paint texture. Select a texture below, then click to paint. So what you want to do is go down here to edit textures, click that, and add texture. And then over here we have the place where we actually add the texture. We will click select. And let's find a good grass texture. Now Unity already has some textures, and you'll see some of our Skybox textures. We'll get to that later. So we'll just try this grass texture right here. And we don't want the tile too much. I like to try to turn mine up a little bit, so that way you can't see the repetition as easily. Maybe change this to 25. And 25. Then add it. Now if you see, that automatically just slaps down a grass texture on the terrain. Now if we step back and kind of look at this, it looks better than it did. Obviously, it's not the flat gray, but it still looks pretty plain because it's just grass and that's it. And you don't really see that in nature where it's just grass and nothing else. So let's try to add some dirt in, and we'll use our dirt texture to kind of break up this this grass texture, so it doesn't look like because you can see. Let me zoom in a little bit here. You can see where it's tiling. You can see the lines. It looks like someone just laid down lines of grass. So we want to break that up, try to help create a better illusion. So we're going to edit textures, add texture, same process again. And this time we'll pick good dirt. and since we're not going to worry about the tiling on this too much because we're going to keep it really faint and just use it to kind of break up the grass. So we're going to select our dirt texture, and we're going to turn the opacity way down, maybe even the target strength. Yeah, let's try that. Let's try a different brush. Let's try something softer. Yeah, there we go. So there we are. We're just kind of adding some grass. Adding some dirt to this grass a little bit. Let's do that again. I don't want to do that. Let's see. I need some dirt over here. Yeah, we'll put some dirt over here. So as you can see, it's kind of taking on a much more natural look instead of just grass and nothing else. When you're painting textures on terrain, the more textures you have, the bigger variety of textures I have, the more realistic you're going to be able to make your environment. Because when you look at nature, it's not a lot of symmetry in nature. You don't really have, places where there's only one, where you would only see one texture like grass or dirt. Maybe in a desert, you would have just sand. But even then, you would have cacti, and different weeds populating the area more than likely. So we've got that set up. We've got our grass and our dirt down. Let's see if we can add a little rock texture to this mountain in the back. Now the rock texture, I'm going to crank it up to about 50, because the player's not going to be right up on it, and if you don't do that, you'll be able to see the tiling very, very well from far back. So let's go on over to our mountain, and we're gonna add that in. And you see I kept my opacity turned down and the target strength. That was for a reason. I like to build up on something. So if I'm doing textures or whatever, I like to build up. So I start off with my opacity really low, and then build it up in areas. You don't have to do it that way. That's just how I prefer to do it. Now we'll crank our opacity up a little bit. Now this rock on top is going to come through a little bit better. Let's turn our target strength up too. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and now what we'll do is we'll turn our opacity way up, target strength way up, and just kind of cap this thing. So that way you've got a gradient kind of rock going from the very tip of this peak and then kind of going down to the valley where you would kind of expect it to go from rocky to grass. It wouldn't just be like straight rock and then boom, straight grass. It would kind of fade in as the grass is trying to grow up to the rock. And I think that looks pretty good for right now. So why don't we do a skybox? Before we do a skybox, before we do that, let us put in something else that we have not put in yet. Go to Game Object, Create Other, and we're going to put in a Directional light. this is going to light our scene like the sun would. Now the directional light isn't like a point light. Where you place it in the scene doesn't really matter as far as how, the its position relative to the ground. Doesn't really matter. It's going to simulate light. It's going to be the same intensity the whole time, because it's a light that would travel infinitely without losing intensity. Um, so that way you can create sun. Now, what is important with the directional light is its rotation, because like the sun, as it rotates, shadows fall in different directions. So depending on what kind of game you're doing, if you're trying to do it at a certain time of day, you would place this in an area where you could simulate that kind of sunlight. Now, for this, we want kind of a almost straight down. Not really straight down, but midday. Midday, noon, somewhere around there. I think that looks pretty good. And the color, you have your light options over here. One thing I want to change is the color, because sunlight isn't just pure white light. Sunlight, when it reaches us, is kind of a off yellow, very light yellow. So that's what I want to do. And as you change, you can see in the environment, as you change your colors, it obviously impacts the environment. So with this bright white light, it's just very washed out, very white. But as you slide it over and you get towards the yellow, you can see the greens really coming through better, and the browns of the dirt coming through a lot better. So we're going to leave it, say right there. That's pretty good. So we'll leave it like that. And one more quick thing we're going to do before we end this video is we're going to throw in the Skybox, and that's pretty simple. Down here I've got my Skybox package loaded in. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Edit. And there's two ways to do Skyboxes. You can put them in a camera for like a first-person shooter or something, and it would basically just draw the sky if the camera looks at it. But what we're going to do is we're going to actually put the Skybox in the scene itself, so that way it's constant. No matter where the camera looks, it still has the sky above it. So we'll go to Edit, and then we'll go to Render Settings, and you'll see here Skybox material. There's none. Well, Unity has some pretty cool Skybox materials already in it. You can see them right here. So I'm going to go with something kind of sunny. Yeah, I like that. So go back to our render settings, and we're just going to click and drag the Skybox right here. And then bam, we got our Skybox. We'll do one more thing since I've got you here. Oh, yeah, there they are. Standard assets. Oh, maybe I don't. Okay. We'll save that for another video. We'll save it for another video. We'll put the character controller in there so we can actually see the scene as it would look in the game. But I think overall right now, it's a pretty nice looking little scene. So as always, if you found this video to be helpful or informative at all, please like the video and subscribe. Thank you.